Good morning, everybody. This is Mrs. Addie Meyer coming to you with a little bit of background information about acids and bases. And I know that you were taking notes on these, so hopefully you got the majority of them, but there's just a couple things that I want to clear up with you to make sure that you are not having any questions at all before we move on with tomorrow's lesson. So we're going to go over acids and bases really quickly, and if you have any questions, feel free to pop into a meet and talk to me or Ms. Dixon, and we'll get things cleared up. We'll start with acids today. So what are acids? Acids are substances that increase the concentration of H plus ions in a solution when they are dissolved. So when I put an acid into water, there's usually not a lot of hydrogen ions or H plus ions in there. And when you take the acid and you put it in water and you dissolve it, the H plus ions free from their acid and break apart and start to float around in the solution. And that is what makes an acid an acid. You probably have heard of the pH scale. The pH scale typically looks like from a 1 to a 14 or a 0 to a 14, and we will get into the pH scale in much greater detail later on. But with the pH scale, hopefully you remember that 7 is neutral, and most water, most of the time, is right around neutral. So 7 is neutral. It is the only neutral pH. Anything higher or lower than 7 is not neutral. And with acids specifically, acids have a pH that's lower than 7. So anything that is 7 or down, including negative, you can have acids that have pHs that are negative. Those are all acidic as long as they have a pH that's less than 7. Acids are sour tasting. So when you eat a food that has a sour flavor to it, it is more than likely caused by an acid. Like if you're a fan of Sour Patch Kids are coated in sugar and citric acid, and that is what gives them their sour then sweet flavor that you so much love. Okay. Acids are considered corrosive. So if you've ever seen a battery that's broken apart and had kind of crusty white stuff on it, that is what we call corrosion that's caused by an acid. Acids typically kind of are in batteries, especially car batteries, and what they do is they react with metals, and when they react with metals, they form that crusty white stuff and hydrogen gas. And so it can be a very vigorous reaction depending on if the molarity is high for those acids and can be kind of very dramatic. Acids also set off the pain receptors in your body when you get them into cuts. So if you would accidentally spill an acid on your hands while you're doing a lab, if its molarity is high enough, it will immediately start to sting on your skin. Molarities that are low, like 0.1 molar, probably not going to do too much. But if you spill 1 molar hydrochloric acid on your hand, especially if you get it into a cut, oh, that is going to sting. And it will burn your skin potentially. But you'll know it's burning your skin because it stings. And again, that's only if the molarity is high enough. When you look for an acid, there are two things to look for in their chemical formula. A lot of times acids start with an H at the very beginning of their formula. So things like hydrochloric acid has a formula of HCl. They start with the H in the lead. The other thing you will see sometimes is that a formula ends in COOH. And COOH, I'm going to kind of slide, sorry. COOH is this part of the formula you can kind of see in this picture here. So it's COOH. That is called a carboxylic acid, and that is a specific type of organic compound that's acidic. So the H comes off of this compound right here, and then that is what makes the solution acidic. So if you see something that's got kind of a fairly complicated structure, and you see this COOH on the end of that, that is going to be an acid. Bases are essentially the opposites of acids. So if an acid increases the H plus, a base increases the concentration of the OH minus when you put them into solution. Sometimes the OH minus is in their actual chemical formula, and sometimes bases actually react with water to get the OH out of water. And so they kind of do a couple different things, and we will talk about those a little bit more in the future. Okay. Again, neutral is a pH of 7. Anything above a 7 is considered basic, and you will also hear them use the word alkaline sometimes. Alkaline is just a fancy word for basic. Acidic is just acidic, but basic you'll hear either basic or alkaline. Bases tend to be bitter tasting. They tend to be things that are cleaning products as well. So that's going to be like toilet cleaner, oven cleaner, soap. Like if you've ever gotten soap in your mouth before, they're not great tasting, and bases tend to be pretty bitter. Bases are slippery to the touch, so if you would spill a base on your hand, it's going to feel really slimy. And the reason for that is because it is reacting with the oils in your hands and kind of turning you into human soap. So you're starting to dissolve your tissues. Interestingly, though, bases do not trigger your pain receptors in the same way as acids do. They cause the same amount of damage, but an acid will let you know that it's burning you, and a base won't. So you have to be very careful with those. The opposite of corrosive is the word caustic. Caustic just implies that it's basic, and you'll see that sometimes. With bases, the chemical formula ends with OH, the hydroxide, so you'll see it actually in the formula like NaOH, or you will see NHX. And what I mean by X is it could be any kind of number there. So you could see a 2 or a 3 or something like that. And it could have a bunch of stuff kind of ahead of it too. So, oh shoot, that's annoying. So you could see something like CH3NH something. And as long as it ends with the NH something, there's a good chance that it is going to be basic. So that's just some very quick background for you. There are a couple of practice problems that I want you to try to see if you can identify what the chemical is. Is it an acid or a base? And when you get those done, then go on to your understanding check, which should be super easy. Okay, good luck.